So yeah, welcome to our first session of Get Interested In, which is focusing on Antarctica and our TC group trip, Unchartered Antarctica for November 2022, which still sounds quite a long way off to me, but yeah, it's definitely going to be here before we know it. So just before I introduce Simon properly, just a reminder that if anyone gets kicked out, then just use the same link to come back in, and you should be able to join us again. And I'm recording the show so that everyone who hasn't been able to make it can watch it again later. And we'll also be muting everyone unless you're able to just go on and mute yourselves. That would be great, just so that everyone can hear what Simon is saying. And yeah, if you have any questions, then we'll be having a bit of a Q&A session afterwards. So if you want to type in the chat or unmute yourselves, then that would be great. And yeah, so now to welcome Simon, the polar expert from Intrepid Travel. And yeah, please go ahead and everyone enjoy the presentation. Over to you, Simon.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm just trying to share my screen, Melissa, and it's saying host disabled participant screen sharing. I'm not sure if you can
yes.
need permission for that.
There we go. That'd be the first glitch.
Perfect. Thank you. Right. So can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Yep, perfect. Okay, yeah, so thanks very much for joining us today, guys. It's really nice to have you here. As Melissa said, we're going to be talking about our Unchartered Antarctica departure, which will be running 30th November 2022, so next year. So yeah, I'm just going to talk you through a bit about the trip itself, just some general info on Antarctica. I know it's probably not somewhere that everybody's particularly familiar with, so I'll just give you a bit more information just in terms of what we're going to be doing down there, what we're likely to see. And there's just a bit more information on the ship itself and just some of the general details of the overall voyage. And then obviously if you've got any questions at the end, feel free to ping them across to us. So just to introduce myself, so I look after our polar sales at Intrepid Travel. I've been very lucky to travel down to Antarctica myself, also across to the Falklands and South Georgia, and also up to the Arctic a couple of times as well. So I've seen the ship that we're going to be traveling on, and yeah, just quite familiar with the destination. So hopefully I can give you some sort of guidance and advice on you know, any queries or information that you need. Just to give you a quick introduction into Intrepid Travel itself. Intrepid are essentially a small group tour operator. We've been running trips to Antarctica as well for many years as well now. We're very much kind of work on the ethos of sustainable, experience-rich travel. So we offer itineraries all over the world, and very much kind of based around immersive itineraries, small group adventures. So generally sort of group sizes around 10 or so, very much about you know, getting kind of up close to the destinations, experiencing the local experiences there, and just seeing what the local places are all about. We have local leaders in all our destinations, and they're very much the key to the sort of success of our trips. They kind of bring the destinations to life, and yeah, very much a big part of our success over the years. And as I said, there's very much a focus on sustainable travel. So we carbon offset all of our trips, and we have been doing that for a long time now. We've been carbon neutral for well over 10 years. And we're a certified B Corp, so that means that we have signed up for this certification. It basically means that we work to kind of specific guidelines that very much focused on the environment, the people, the places that we visit, and just trying to do everything in a sustainable way as possible. And obviously we apply that to our trips down to Antarctica as well. So I'm just going to start with a short video just to give you a bit of a taste of what you might experience when you're down there. Okay, so hopefully that just gives you a little taste of what you might expect. So as I said, I'm just going to kind of go through some of the different aspects of the trip. So just starting with the kind of basics. So the itinerary will actually start from Ushuaia, which is right at the very tip of Argentina, the southernmost town there. So to get there from the UK or elsewhere, anywhere in the world, actually, you would fly into Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina. And then from there, it's about 3.5-hour flight down to Ushuaia. So obviously, you know, the cruise package itself will start and end in Ushuaia, but obviously if you wanted to tag on any extra time elsewhere in Argentina or in South America, then it's a really good opportunity to do that as well. So the trip itself is a 14-day itinerary. Now this is a really cool itinerary. Most of the kind of ships tend to go down the western side of the Antarctic Peninsula, and this one is quite unique because it's also going to spend a few days on the eastern side, on the kind of Weddell Sea side in the Antarctic Sound. So this kind of eastern side is very much known for the huge tabular icebergs. And when I say huge, I mean there's icebergs down there that are, the equivalent size of small countries, so that big. So some of the scenery down this side is absolutely stunning. There's also a few really big penguin colonies, bigger than you might see on the western side of the peninsula as well. On this eastern side, there's very few other ships that go down there, so it's very much going to be a bit more off the beaten track than a lot of the other itineraries that you might see out there. So it's going to be a really unique experience. The trip itself will start off in Ushuaia, as I said. We'll have the first night in a hotel in Ushuaia, and then you'll board the ship the following day. Normally it takes between 1.5 to 2 days to sail across the Drake Passage, just depending on the conditions. But once we get onto the eastern side, we'll then have 3 days kind of exploring around there. The idea of these trips is to try and get you off the ship as much as possible and get you up close to the ice and the wildlife, and explore the destination firsthand. So we'll try and get you off the ship twice each day. Obviously that's very much dependent on the weather conditions, but that'll be the aim. So once we get down to the Weddell Sea side, we plan to have 3 full days there. And then from there we'll head across to the western side of the peninsula, which, as I said, is probably the more popular or more visited area of the peninsula. And there we'll have 4 full days. So there's going to be probably a bit more wildlife on that side, and just absolutely stunning scenery as well. So this trip's very much going to give the kind of best of both sides of the Antarctic Peninsula. In terms of what we're going to see down there, so penguins are obviously going to be a big feature, and obviously that's a big draw for a lot of people. So in and around the peninsula, there's generally 3 penguin species that you're likely to see. So we have the chin straps on the left there, the Adelis in the middle, and then the gentoos on the right-hand side. It's not guaranteed that you'll see all 3 species, but there's good chances, particularly doing both sides. And yeah, the time of year that you'll be going, then the chances should be as good as any. The penguin chicks generally start to hatch sort of normally just before kind of Christmas time. So towards the end of the trip, there is a small chance that you might get to see some penguin chicks, but it can't be guaranteed. But certainly you should be able to see some of the eggs and in the nests. So yeah. But I can guarantee you that you're going to see lots and lots of penguins each day. Some of the, a lot of the landing sites that we'll go to will have penguin colonies, and even on the ship or on the Zodiac boats, and you're going to see penguins everywhere you go. So there's going to be lots and lots of penguins to see throughout the trip, which I'm sure you're all very glad to hear. In addition to that, there'll be lots of seals as well. So down in Antarctica, we have leopard seals, there's Weddell seals, elephant seals, crab eaters. So lots and lots of different seal species, and again, throughout the trip there should be good chances of seeing these. Hopefully as well there should be a few pups around as well at this time of year. Generally they start giving birth sort of late November time, so again there could be opportunities to see some young wildlife as well. And then hopefully some whales as well. Now traditionally sort of later on in the season tends to be when there's whales in Antarctica in the bigger volumes. But I mean, I was down there kind of mid-November time, so a bit earlier than this planned departure, and we still had 6 or 7 separate whale sightings. All these pictures are actually from the trip that I did down there. So as you can see, you can get pretty close to them. We have humpbacks are probably the most common down there. They're really, really inquisitive as well. So whether it be you're on the ship or on the Zodiacs when you're going off to do the landings, quite often the humpbacks will come right up to the vessels. We had a couple of times where they were literally just circling around the ship. So you've got these fantastic views, from the ship deck, and yeah, you can see them really close. Hopefully also some orcas, and we were lucky enough to see a pod when we were down there. And then minke whales as well, they're quite common. We had a couple of experiences on the Zodiacs where they were literally just kind of circling around the Zodiacs, putting on a bit of a show for us as well. So there's also sperm whales down there, southern right whales, if we're really, really lucky, there's a few blue whales knocking around as well. So yeah, hopefully there should be some good chances of some good whale experiences as well. Also plenty of sea life as well, bird life as well, particularly on the crossings. There's some really good opportunities to see the birds. The back of the ship kind of kicks up a bit of a wake, and there's lots of nutrients in that. So throughout those couple of days at sea, when you're getting across to Antarctica, there'll be lots and lots of bird life out the back. You literally have, a dozen or so albatross at any time just kind of soaring behind the ship, just following the ship as it goes. We have Arctic terns, there's skewers, there's the blue-eyed shags there, various gulls as well. So lots and lots of bird life. And when you're actually down into Antarctica itself as well, there's a huge amount down there as well. So for me personally, prior to going down there, I was never massively, birds weren't a massive kind of interest for me, but you really kind of get sucked into it when you're down there, and just all the different varieties. It's really interesting to see all the different behaviours as well. So yeah, there should be lots and lots of birds while you're there as well. And then of course the amazing scenery. Now, I mean, I've been lucky enough to travel to a lot of places around the world, and Antarctica for me is still far and above the most beautiful place I've ever been to. Just the fact it's so remote, so cut off from civilization and the real world. It really is like nowhere else. It's very much yeah, just completely different to anywhere else I've ever been. Just stunning kind of ice scenery, mountains there. The ice formation, some of the colours, absolutely beautiful. As I said, on the Weddell Sea side, you'll have some absolutely enormous icebergs, and then down in the western side of the peninsula, just really, really beautiful scenery. There's a couple of channels there that are absolutely stunning, and hopefully, yeah, you'll get the opportunity to to see a lot of that once you're down there. On the landings that we're doing, so as I said, we'll try and get you off the ship as much as possible each day. There's various different landing sites that we'll aim to go to each time. So in addition to just the kind of out and out beauty spots where there might be penguin colonies, there's also old whaling stations, which you can see up in the top right there. There's also a couple of research stations. There's the British post down there, Port Lockroy, which we'll try and get to. There's a small post office there and a British team on board. You can actually send postcards from there back to your home destinations. And there's also other sort of small research bases as well. So just depending on the conditions once we're down there, we'll sort of try and give you as much as variation on the sort of types of landing sites that we're going to. But like I said, I can guarantee you won't be disappointed with the scenery down there. It's absolutely stunning. So just in terms of a kind of typical day on board, so as I said, we'll have a couple of days sailing across the Drake Passage from Ushuaia, but once we actually get into Antarctica, then we'll kind of lock into this kind of daily routine. Obviously, this is very much dependent on the conditions once we're down there. So you do kind of have to go into this, being prepared to be a bit flexible. I've got a kind of rough idea here of timings, but just based on what's happening with the weather and the ice conditions each day, then obviously those can change. So it's very much the case of being flexible. But yeah, just as a sort of general rule each day. So we'll generally have a wake-up call at sort of around 7:30 or so in the morning, with a nice big breakfast served after that. Then have a little bit of time just to get ready before you get ready for the morning operations of leaving the ship. So once everyone's kind of finished their breakfast and got all their gear on, the first group will be called down to the mudroom. They can get all the gear on, and then down to the disembarkation bay to head out for the morning. So we leave the ship on these small black rubber dinghies, the Zodiacs, and the excursions that we'll do will be a combination of either Zodiac cruising or actually setting foot on land. Now in Antarctica, there's a rule where you're only allowed to have 100 people on the ice at any one time. The ship that we've got, the Ocean Endeavour, actually carries up to 200 passengers. So the way we kind of get around this is we'll have 100 people on the ice and then 100 people doing the Zodiac cruising, and kind of switch it around. So you still get the full duration off the ship, and it just means that everybody gets a chance to step foot on the land, as well as experiencing the Zodiac cruising as well. And we also have some kayakers that will be out, we'll kind of take away from those numbers as well. So yeah, the whole idea is to try and get everybody off the ship and spend as much time up on the land and enjoying the wildlife and enjoying the experience as much as possible. And so after the morning operations, we'll then head back to the ship for a nice big lunch. You'll definitely have worked up a bit of an appetite with the cold weather. During that time, the ship will be repositioning to the next landing site. It might be, we've got a bit of time after lunch as well, so you can have a bit of time up on deck just watching the world go by. There might be a chance to see some whales or other wildlife. And then once we get to the next landing site, we'll then begin the afternoon operations. And again, this, the landing or Zodiac cruising in the afternoon will depend on the landing site, but there'll be a sort of full afternoon plan to get off the ship. Once we come back to the ship, after that, there'll be some snacks waiting for you just before we have the evening kind of dinner session. We'll also have a bit of a recap. Just kind of, maybe it might be that someone's caught some really cool footage of some wildlife that day, or some really, some icebergs carving or something like that. We have a team of specialists on board the expedition staff who are all specialised in various different subjects. And it might be that one of those, the marine biologist has seen some really cool whale behaviour or something like that, and someone's caught some videos. So we'll maybe talk about that, and then we'll look at the plans for the next day, and depending on the weather conditions, where we're going to be heading. We then have a big dinner, and then after that, it's you're sort of free to do what you want. So might be heading to the bar for a couple of drinks. You might be absolutely exhausted and just want to head to bed. You might just want to chill out in the common areas and just relax a bit and read a book. So yeah, that's very flexible, but like I said, we'll sort of try and aim to get everybody off the ship as much as possible. So just in terms of the ship itself, so this is the Ocean Endeavour, and this is our full expedition vessel. So as I said, we carry 200 passengers on the ship. It's actually capable of carrying a lot more than that, just over 400 passengers. We actually cap it at 200. Just so that we're then able to get to all the different landing sites. In Antarctica, there's a rule that any ships over 200 passengers are limited where they can get to. So by capping it at 200, it just means that we can access all the sites down there. It then also means that we just got a bit more room on board as well to make it a bit more comfortable for you guys. Now the ship itself, it's by no means a kind of high-end super duper luxury one. It's very much a kind of mid-range vessel. Very comfortable on board, lots of great facilities, but yeah, it's not going to be, if you're looking for 5-star luxury, then it's definitely not that. But as I said, very comfortable on board, and we'll be able to give you a sort of true expedition experience. So the idea of our kind of operations down there is to provide Antarctica uncompromised. So on the ship, we have enough Zodiacs on board to have everybody off the ship at the same time. So this is really, really important for us. As I said, the whole idea is to kind of be off the ship and experiencing Antarctica kind of up close and personal and as much as possible. So by having enough Zodiacs to have everyone off at the same time, it just means we can give everybody that real true Antarctic experience. We also have an industry-leading passenger to expedition team ratio of 8:1. So for every 8 passengers, we'll have 1 expedition staff member. And these are the guys that will be taking you out on the Zodiacs, really giving you that kind of full experience. They'll be the guides once you get onto the land, and they'll be hosting the lectures on board. They'll kind of be your main point of contact throughout the trip. And they really do bring the trip alive. Their kind of knowledge in each of their different subjects is quite phenomenal. Their enthusiasm, their general kind of guidance, will make the experience. With those guys, we have a selection of specialists from across the board. So there'll be a biologist, marine biologist, a historian, ornithologists, a glaciologist. We'll have people in all these different specialized subjects, and they'll be able to provide their expert knowledge on each of their kind of specialized subjects to really bring the destination alive for you. We also pride ourselves on having some of the fastest operations down in Antarctica. So on the ship, we have disembarkation bays on both sides. A lot of the ships only have them on one side, and by having on both sides, it just means that we can get everybody on and off very quickly by going off either side of the ship. And then on the ship itself, we also have unrivaled deck space. As I said, the potential for seeing wildlife, whales, and just the scenery from the ship is fantastic. And then we have 360-degree views, which just allows you to spend time up on the ship and get that full experience to see as much as possible as well. Just in terms of what we include on the trip, so as I said, we have the first night in Ushuaia included. We'll include the airport arrival transfer as well from Ushuaia to the hotel. So you can arrive anytime on that first day, just get settled in, just enjoy Ushuaia, have a bit of a wander around. Then the next day, we'll board the ship a bit later on in the afternoon, so around about 4 o'clock. So in the morning, if you want to do some last minute shopping or maybe do an excursion to the National Park of Tierra del Fuego, then we can do that. But yeah, we then board the ship later on in the afternoon and head off from there. On board, you'll have all of your meals included. We have, as I said, the full expedition team. There's also a hotel team that will take care of your rooms and cabins and provide all your meals. In terms of equipment, we'll provide you with the Parker jacket. So the blue jacket, you can see the ladies in there. That's just on loan for the duration of the trip. And then we provide an inner jacket, a kind of like a fleece inner jacket, which is actually yours to keep. And then we also provide the boots that you'll need for the landings each time you leave the ship. And again, that's just on loan for the duration of the trip. I'll come on to some of the other clothing a bit later on. Yeah, just in terms of the inclusions, so the only things really that you're going to need to spend any additional money on board would be for drinks at the bar or your meals, and then tips at the end of the trip. There's also a small boutique shop on board as well, so obviously if you wanted to buy any bits from there, then that would be additional cost. But generally, most things are included within the cruise package itself. In addition to the kind of regular landings that are included as part of the cruise package, we do have some additional adventure activities as well. And these, really provides with quite authentic experiences and get you a bit more off the beaten track. And just, things to say that you've done in Antarctica that very few other people have done. So some of the options that we have is the kayaking. So the kayaking runs throughout the duration of the voyage. And once we get down to Antarctica, obviously it's very much dependent on the conditions once we're down there, the kind of snow and water conditions. But with this, we'll try and get out probably most days, just depending on, like I said, like the conditions. And these will run alongside the regular landings and excursions. So if you are doing the kayaking, then this would be instead of one of the kind of regular landings. But I guess that, the main kind of advantage of this is just very much getting off the beaten track, away from the main group, just having the chance to kind of kayak through some of these enormous icebergs. It might be that you have inquisitive whales coming up near you, penguins, seals, and just getting away from the ship, just having that silence, just hearing the sound of Antarctica, might be the carving glaciers in the background. So yeah, really unique experience. With the kayaking, you don't necessarily have to go out every single time the group goes out. So if you had one day where you think, actually I prefer to do the regular landing that day, then it's no problem to do that. If you're feeling a bit tired one day, so you don't necessarily need to go out every single time, but by signing up to that, then you have the option to do that throughout the voyage. We also have the camping. Now this is just a one-off activity, and this is offered basically to anyone that's signed up. As soon as the weather conditions allow, then the first evening that's possible, then we'll aim to do the camping activity. And basically, after the dinner that night, the group that have signed up will leave the ship. They'll head off on the Zodiacs across to shore, set up the camp for the night, and then basically you're free to just enjoy the evening under the Antarctic stars. I was lucky enough to do this when I went down there, and it's absolutely incredible experience. We had a few penguins that are quite inquisitive and came and checked us out for the evening, and yeah, just a really unique experience. Not many people can say they've camped out in Antarctica, so yeah, definitely something that I highly recommend. We also have the snowshoeing. The other activities are all pre-bookable. The snowshoeing you actually need to book on board, just because it's very dependent on the snow conditions. But again, this will hopefully have a few opportunities to do this during the trip. And with this, you'll kind of go ashore with the regular landing group, and then once you get to shore, you'll put the snowshoes on and head off a bit more off the beaten track. So for those of you just looking to stretch your legs a bit more, or just get away from the main group or a bit more off the beaten track, then that's a really nice option as well. And then finally, we have the photography workshop, and again, this will run throughout the duration of the voyage. And with this, we'll have a designated photography expert who will kind of lead you out on certain landings and Zodiac cruises. We have some special forward-facing Zodiac cruises for the photography group, which just makes taking pictures from the Zodiacs a bit easier. And basically with this, the photography expert will be providing kind of expert tips and guidance throughout the trip, just to improve your photography and get the best out of your pictures in Antarctica. And there'll also be some workshops back on board the ship as well, with kind of Photoshop and just sort of touching up your pictures as well. So it'll very much be allow you to become or improve your photography by the end of the trip. So just in terms of the kind of landing process, like I said, we'll try and get you off the ship as much as possible. As I touched on earlier, we've got disembarkation bays on both sides of the ship, which means we can get everybody off and back on again very quickly. And we actually have two on either side, so just makes it, we can choose from either one on each side. And yeah, so basically when we do the landing operations, you'll be called down in the ship will be broken up into groups, and the first group will be called down to the mudroom where you'll have all your gear. Now a lot of the ships don't have these rooms, but it's actually a really good benefit to have on board. Just means that you can leave all of your wet weather gear here overnight, rather than having to traipse it back up to your cabin, where it can get a bit damp and smelly. You can leave it down in the mudroom, and it just means that it's kept nice and dry for you. And when you come down in the morning, you can put it on, it's nice and warm for you to head out. So yeah, once you head down to the mudroom in the morning, get all your gear on, then you'll be called through to the disembarkation steps, and from there we load onto the Zodiacs. So you can see here, these are the steps that you'd leave the ship from. So the Zodiacs will pull up at the bottom of the wooden platform at the bottom there. We'll have a couple of staff members who will be waiting at the bottom to help you on and off the Zodiacs. So it's very much a case of, as long as you can get up and down these steps and on and off the Zodiacs, then you won't have any problem doing the regular landings. On board the ship itself, as I said, it's very comfortable on board. We have lots of facilities. So we have a couple of kind of communal lounge areas. One of those has the bar in, so that's one of the main kind of focal points. And we also use those for the lectures as well, which we do on the crossings to and from Antarctica, and for the recap sessions in the evenings as well. There's obviously a big restaurant, lots and lots of space in the restaurant. We have a lounge up on the top deck where we do yoga every morning. There's a small polar shop. There's a polar library. There's a small gym on board. Also out on the deck, we have a small outdoor swimming pool as well. There's a jacuzzi, a couple of saunas, and then lots and lots of deck space as well. So lots and lots of space on board. Very much a case of, with the communal areas, it's very easy to mix and mingle with people. Also with having so much space, if you just want to read your book for a bit and have a bit of time to yourself and watch the world go by outside, then there's the opportunity to do that. So very much kind of catered for whatever you're looking for, really. In terms of the cabins, so we have 10 different cabin categories on board, very much to kind of suit all budgets and requirements. So our sort of lead-in price cabins are the triple cabins. And then from there we have designated single cabins, and then also a variety of different twin cabins as well. We have interior cabins for the first 3 cabin categories, and then all the ones kind of above that are exterior ones. Obviously, as you kind of go up through the different categories, the cabins start to get a bit bigger and just a bit more spacious, and yeah, just a bit more comfortable basically. So we'll send over all the details of the different prices, and yeah, hopefully there's something there that's sort of suitable for you. So I touched on earlier, just in terms of some of the clothing that we provide. People often ask, you know, what they need to take, what kind of gear you require when you're down there. So as I said, we'll provide the outer parka jacket, which is just on loan for the trip, the inner jacket, which you can keep, and then the boots for the landings on loan for the duration of the trip as well. And then very much it's a case of just getting lots of layers for underneath your jackets. The temperatures can vary quite a lot when you're down there, just depending on whether it's, you know, a clear sunny day or whether the wind's up and it's, you know, cloudy and cold. And then also a good pair of waterproof trousers as well. So something like some ski salopettes are ideal. And then some good warm waterproof gloves, a hat, and some sunglasses and eye protection are really important as well. So yeah, the key is very much just being able to adjust just depending on how the conditions are on any given day. I just also wanted to touch on the fact that during the trip, we'll, all our departures, we operate a citizen science program. So we're very much committed to kind of utilising the fact that the ship's down there in such a remote part of the world. And we have guys on board that will be running these Antarctic science programs. And these basically allow you to take part in kind of scientific research while you're down there as well. Obviously, you know, it's not every day that people get to travel down to Antarctica, and, you know, from a scientific point of view, there's lots and lots of really useful and valuable information down there. And so we support all these different scientific projects. And yeah, it just means that you can actually get involved in taking some of the kind of measurements, whether it be, you know, some of the ice measurements or some of the wildlife and whales that you've spotted, and providing really useful data that then goes towards these kind of scientific research programs. So it's just giving a little bit back and just making use of the fact that the ship's down there as well. So it should be pretty cool to get involved with that. Obviously at the moment, with this little pandemic thing that's going on, I fully appreciate that people might have reservations about committing to, you know, to such a big trip. So we've introduced our book with assurance policy, which is trying to give us as much flexibility as possible with our trips. So at the moment we have a reduced deposit in place, which is £1,600 per person, with the final balance due 95 days before departure. The trip will be completely ABTA or ATOL protected, depending on whether you book the flights. And then we also have kind of flexible booking conditions in place as well. So if for any reason you decide that actually you're not going to be able to travel in the lead up to the trip, we're able to move you on to another voyage as long as it's done more than 95 days out from the departure. And if, you know, if for any reason we have to cancel the trip or you're unable to travel just because of travel restrictions in place, then we'll offer you the option to rebook to another alternative and provide you with a credit for future travel, or offer a full refund. So I'm just trying to be as flexible as possible as we can, and yeah, just try and make it as easy as possible. So we fully appreciate that it can be difficult at the moment just with the current situation. Obviously by next November, we're very much hoping that everything's going to be as well back to some sort of normality, but obviously yeah, just by providing this, hopefully it gives you a bit more reassurance that we're doing everything that we can to make it as easy as possible and flexible as possible for you to travel. So you're probably all wondering how much these kind of trips cost. So yeah, just give you an idea of some of the different cabin prices there. We've actually got, we've kind of agreed with Melissa that we can offer you guys an exclusive at the moment. So we've actually got 20% off our cabin category 5 to 7 cabins, and then 25% off our category 8 to 10 cabins. So for a lot of those, it actually makes them a bit cheaper than some of the low-end cabin categories. We've got this offer running just through till the end of the month. So very much a case of if you are keen to join, then sort of booking sooner rather than later is definitely advisable, because it's going to save fairly significant amount of money. But you can see there, yeah, some really good savings. And like I said, you know, for a trip of this magnitude, and some of the places that we're going to go very much off the beaten track on the eastern side that very few people have been to. And so I appreciate it's lots of money, but it's still fantastic value for the actual trip and what you're getting. We've also got the prices there for the additional activities as well. So yeah, the kayaking and the photography workshop, and then the camping as well. Like I said, those ones that are pre-bookable, we definitely advise adding those, sort of, you know, ideally when you do book the trip, but if not, sometime soon after, just because they're limited spots and they do get booked out. For the snowshoeing, then that will be bookable once you're on board, so there's no need to worry about that in the meantime. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of what you can expect. And yeah, if you've got any questions, then I'll be happy to answer anything that you'd like to know.
Thanks, Simon. That was great, really informative, and I think has pretty much covered everything that we were hoping for on the trip in Antarctica. And yeah, the wildlife is certainly massive selling point. Even if you're not going to camp out on the ice and have a penguin next to you in the middle of the night, you'll still be seeing so many penguins and seals, whales, and everything just sounds outstanding. So thank you for that.
No problem.
I have had quite a few questions coming through to me while you were talking, so if anyone else has any questions, you can either type them in the chat or unmute yourselves. Anyway, that's absolutely fine. But in the meantime, my first one is it just Intrepid guests who are on the ship?
Yes, it will be, yeah. So yes, I mean, obviously we have our offices in Australia, North America, and the UK. So we'll be promoting the trip through those different means. Obviously, we have you know, different partners, you know, agent partners like yourself. So yeah, you know, we'll be selling through all those means basically, but it'll be Intrepid operated, and everyone will be an Intrepid guest.
Great. And is there a minimum age limit for guests at all?
Yeah, so the youngest age is 8 years old, so 8 and above is fine.
Okay.
We don't tend to get too many children, but yeah, I think anything younger than 8 starts to get a little bit complicated, just especially with some of the landing operations, just the safety aspect as well. But yeah, 8 would be the minimum.
Okay, that's good to know for some people who have their families. They can decide what they're going to do.
Yeah.
With regards to temperatures, what is the range in the daily temperature?
Yeah, so it really does vary just depending on the conditions. I'd say probably on a kind of clear, sunny, nice still day, then you're probably looking you know, around about sort of freezing or so, I'd say, maybe, you know, slightly above or below. If it's a cold, stormy, windy day, it's particularly, you know, when the wind is up and you get the wind chill, that's when the temperatures can really drop. And then you know, you can be looking at anything from sort of -20, -30 with wind chill. Obviously, you know, if it's looking really stormy outside, then, you know, we wouldn't necessarily leave the ship, but you know, it's very much playing it by ear, and that's why I sort of said that adjusting with the layers and clothing each day is really important, just because there can be quite a big range in the sort of temperatures you experience. But yeah, I mean, at a kind of normal average day, you're probably looking at sort of -5, -5, -10, if it's not clear blue skies and you know, a bit cloudy and overcast.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and all of the absolute equipment that you need really is provided anyway, the clothing wise.
Yeah, it's just the trousers really, I guess, are the key thing, and then it's just a case of lots of layers for the upper body.
Okay. This next question is a bit of a big question. Maybe you can see how you want to answer it. Okay, how does Intrepid respect any environmental issues regarding travel to Antarctica, such as the fragile environment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So basically, any ship that operates down in Antarctica has to adhere to the IATO guidelines. Basically, IATO is a kind of organization that all of the operators that go down to Antarctica are kind of members of, and there's very strict kind of rules and regulations that all those operators adhere to. So it's very much a case of leave no trace. So any landing that's done, the site has to be left immaculate afterwards. Obviously, aside from the footprints of people traveling trekking in the snow, then outside of that there shouldn't be any any trace of human activity aside from that. So we'll very much adhere to that. We will carbon offset all of our trips. We also, we're not going to have any single-use plastic on board. We'll only be using line-caught fish on board. So yeah, and then outside of that, just with the IATO regulations, there's lots of things that we kind of have to adhere to. And obviously, everybody on board is very passionate about the destination. I appreciate that sending a ship down to there might sound a bit kind of not necessarily in fitting with that, but we're very much we feel that once you go down there, I think I certainly was when I came back, you're very much becoming an Antarctic ambassador, to see how kind of pristine and fragile the environment is down there. It really does make you think about the planet and the environment a lot more. And I know when I came back, it certainly made me rethink about some of the things that I was doing, and and sort of spoke to my friends about that as well. So we very much hope that people come back and become ambassadors and just kind of highlight how sort of delicate and pristine the environment is down there. Yeah, we're fully conscious that having a ship down there might not look great, but yeah, we sort of do as much as we can to try and offset any sort of issues that might arise from that, basically.
Okay, good. Yeah, so it's a learning environment all around them, really, and lessons that we can bring back to even change our own lifestyles for the better as well, which is great.
Very much so. And I think with the citizen science programs I kind of highlighted as well, I think a lot of that will be really kind of educational in terms of learning a bit more about the how delicate things are down there as well. So hopefully it'll be a good educational and informative piece as well.
Yeah, well, just along a similar vein there, what are the toilet arrangements if you're camping on the ice?
Yeah, so we basically we just set up a temporary toilet for the night. It's by no means the most glamorous thing, but yeah, we'll kind of, depending on the site that we use. When I went down there, we sort of built a snow wall, and then we just had a kind of we kind of built a sort of toilet seat. We had a bag that everything went into, and we had a seat, and then obviously that's just taken back to the ship in the next morning. Luckily, the passengers don't get involved in that side of things, so it'll very much be the staff looking after that. But yeah, obviously it's tricky, but yeah, everyone has to use that because we're not allowed to just go to the toilet anywhere. So obviously, yeah, we sort of try and advise people to use the toilet before going across, and hold out where possible, but appreciate that's not always going to be possible. So but yeah, there is a kind of temporary toilet provided, but yeah, it's obviously a bit chilly and not the most developed toilet you're ever going to use.
It's an expedition toilet. Sounds great.
Indeed.
No worries. So and just sorry, a few more questions here. So
sure.
Just back on the temperature and the weather, on average at that time of year, how many kind of sunny days versus bad weather days would you expect at that time?
It's really difficult to say, just because obviously with the way, I mean, I guess sort of 15-20 years ago it might have been a bit more predictable. Just with the way the climate is these days, it's really hard to predict. I mean, I would say at that time of year, we're kind of coming into the main Antarctic summer, so the days will start getting longer. In theory, it should be starting to get a bit warmer. There should be a bit more sunlight around, but yeah, there's no way that you can guarantee it, really. When I went down there, it was kind of mid-November time. We had the first couple of days were quite overcast, a couple of little storms, and then we had 5 or 6 days where it just got better and better each day. And the last 3 or 4 days we literally we didn't see a cloud for those days. So hopefully you'll get a bit of weather like that. I think having a bit of a mixture is nice, because it makes, especially when you get those blue sky days, it makes you really appreciate how beautiful it is. But it's actually quite cool as well seeing it on the days when it's really stormy. And you think back to some of the explorers that have been down there, and how they survived. They've been down there through the whole winter, and to actually experience some of the bad weather, just to get an idea of what they've been through as well. Actually, I think it's quite a cool thing to experience as well. So
quite eye-opening, eh?
Very much so, yeah. And just to you read these stories and you see some of the films, but until you actually get down there and kind of experience it for yourself, and think that we're just off the ship for a couple of hours and we've got all the modern equipment and clothing, and to think that they were out there for months on end with this basic gear, it just makes you realize how hardy they were. So it's very difficult to say, but obviously we'd hope, going at that time of year, you're coming into the summertime, so hopefully there'll be some good weather, but there's no guarantees.
And if there is bad weather, what do you class as, what is bad weather that might stop you being able to get onto the ice, and what do you do on those days?
Yeah, so I guess really the main thing is just if the wind gets up and the sea starts getting really choppy, then that's when it gets a bit dangerous. I mean, the good thing is once you're down in the peninsula, it's actually quite sheltered. So even if it is quite stormy, you don't tend to, it doesn't tend to get too rough down there. So but yeah, generally they would be the main kind of reasons that we wouldn't go out, or if those conditions started coming in whilst people are out, then we'd try and get people back to the ship. If we're unable to do a landing, then we'll still try and do some kind of positioning with the ship to take you to a place where you can see things. So it might be that you can still see stuff on the deck, but yeah, it just very much depends on where we are and how things are. Obviously, like I said, the expedition team on board are as desperate to get off the ship as all the passengers, so we'll all do whatever we can. Also you'll find down there as well, there's little kind of microclimates and little pockets of good and bad weather. And the captain and the expedition leader are very good at kind of knowing where they are. So we'll all try and avoid bad weather wherever possible, and get you to the places where we can get you off the ship. Obviously, sometimes if it's bad weather all around down there, then it just means that we can't, we have to put safety first, basically. So if it's a complete whiteout outside, then it might be that there's lectures put on, or a polar film or something like that. We'll try and do whatever we can to keep people entertained and occupied as an alternative.
Okay, and just the last one on on the weather side, just following on from that, but in bad weather, how does that tend to affect like how bumpy the ship is and everything? I mean, not just the Drake Passage crossing, but generally on a bad day, if the weather is bad, is it likely that you'll feel seasick or motion sickness?
So I think, and I guess it depends, it's down to each individual. I mean, once you're down in Antarctica, as I said, it's relatively sheltered down there. So once you're kind of down there, there's not as much movement on the ship. And I think unless you're really, really prone to seasickness, then you shouldn't have too many problems once you're down there. Obviously on the crossing, you're at open sea for up to a couple of days. With the Drake Passage, there's really no kind of guaranteeing how it's going to be. We can have what we call the Drake Lake, where it's nice and smooth and a gentle crossing, and then we have the Drake Shake, where it's a bit more lively. So, on any given day, it can, the conditions can really vary. So, if it is a rough crossing, it can get quite bumpy. And on those days, if you are really feeling the effect, then probably best, just sort of hibernate into the cabin for an hour or two. But we'll still have the lecture programs going. There'll still be stuff going up on the communal areas. For some people it's not a problem. But yeah, on those really rough days, there can be quite a bit of movement, with the ship going from side to side. So it's very much a case of each individual kind of just kind of planning to their own needs, really. All the meals will still be provided, everything will still go on as normal. But yeah, it can get a bit rocky on those really rough days.
Could be a bit of a mixture and all dependent on the individual really at the end of the day.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
For the kayaking, do you need to have previous experience in order to book that?
Yeah, we would recommend at least having a sort of day or two on open water, ideally, on the sea, just because we're in such a remote part of the world, and we'll have the sort of safety boat and the kayaking guide there, and we'll make it as safe as possible. But the fact we are in such a remote part of the world, ideally people would have had just some experience, just so they're a bit more familiar with the feel of it. So yeah, I mean, even if you don't have that experience now, there's no problem in booking it, booking the kayaking, and then you can look to do that in the lead up to the trip. But certainly, yeah, having some sort of open water experience would be advisable. Yeah. Okay.
And the final question I think I have is, what are the length of the days, the daylight?
So by that time of year, I would say probably, I mean, I was there mid-November, and by about 10 o'clock, we'd have this kind of dusk coming in, which would sort of be there till about 4-ish. So I guess this will be a bit later on. So I imagine probably between, say, 11 and 3 at night, it will kind of, be getting a bit darker. But certainly towards the end of the trip, then, it'll probably be getting not quite 24-hour daylight, but, not far off that. So, yeah, it's going to be, long days at that time of year. And yeah, just, lots of opportunities therefore to kind of see lots of wildlife, and yeah, it just gives you more time to experience the destination really. So yeah, it could be a fantastic time of year to go.
And an unusual experience anyway, just having that number of hours in daylight. So
yeah, for
brilliant.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's certainly all the ones that I have been sent at the moment, but if anyone else has any other questions at any point, then just send them through, and yeah, we can have a chat and go through them. And as Simon said, with regards to the pricing and the options for the cabins, then I'll be sending those out as well, so that we can start seeing actual interest in it and starting to sign up for the trips, so that we can make sure that we don't lose our places on cabins that we've currently got held. And yeah, if anyone has any other questions at all about this trip or about Antarctica in general, then please just give me a call or drop me an email or a WhatsApp. That's absolutely fine. And yeah, we'll be back in touch, and hopefully we will have a great TC group trip for next November. And thank you very much, Simon.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks, guys. And yeah, we look forward to welcoming you on board the Ocean Endeavour, and see you in Antarctica.
Absolutely. All right. See you then. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.